which is the ANC group. That's all we should have. Because if we have that, comrades, then we are halfway on our way to victory. As they say in the classics, united we stand, divided we fall. And now as we are going to the elections, I am hoping that here in Johannesburg we will be cohesive, we will hold each other's hands, and we will make sure that we remain united and focus on the one task at hand, which is winning the elections. That is what renewal is all about. And I would say, comrades, let us focus all our energies, everything that we do, on renewal, and ask ourselves, is this renewing the ANC? Is our membership system helping us to renew the ANC? And is the way we are functioning? And one of the things that I've heard, which I like, and which I probably will copy, is what I've heard that the Premier, Bamita Locksmith, now that is part of renewal. Or if you arrive late at a meeting, Locksmith will have locked the door and there is no entry. Now, those who are often locked out of meetings may get agitated and angry. But comrades, that is the way of renewing our organization, making sure that we become disciplined, making sure we indeed act in terms of our rules. If it is said, and he was telling me, or if it is said when the meeting starts at 9 o'clock, it really starts at 8:45. People are there. And the process of renewal also means that once you are a leader and you are in a meeting, whether you are just a mere member, once the meeting starts, it works according to rules. And the rules must mean when the chair says, comrade, your time is over, you sit down. Keep discipline here. When the chair says, comrades, keep quiet, you are making a noise, we all do that. What I always admire with a party that we are allied to and that we really admire is the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese Communist Party, there is discipline. And their meetings always start on time. They discuss their issues in an orderly manner. They reach decisions. When they leave, they go and implement those decisions. Now, that is what the ANC must become. An organization that is well-structured, well-functioning, and effective. Now, we are becoming well-structured. We've just held at the national level all the conferences of our leagues as the conference in December directed us. It says you must hold the conference of the Women's League, the Youth League, the Veterans League. We have done all that, and that is progress. And now, yes, at the provincial level as well as at the regional level. And it also said we must strengthen the alliance. We are in the process of doing that. But the other footnote that was there was that we must revive Sanko. And Sanko is becoming revived. And that is the way we are being structured. So, comrades, the renewal process in our organization is ongoing. And of course, we did say that renewal is not a one-day affair. Renewal is a process. And we have decided for the renewal of the ANC, the rebuilding of the ANC, and the unity of the ANC is irrevocable. We are going to achieve that objective. And the real test for us is as we go to the elections. Now, one of the process of renewal is that we must stop the public spats amongst us. Those must stop. We must stop demonstrating that we are a divided house, where we attack each other, when we stand on a public platform, somebody attacks this one and that one. That has to come to an end. Even if you don't agree with Comrade Panyaza, you must never stand on a public platform and attack Comrade Panyaza, because if you do so, you are weakening the African National Congress. We must demonstrate unity, because when people look at us, Comrade Panyaza, and so on and so on, they say, but these people are still divided. They are fighting amongst themselves. And we must stop the fights amongst ourselves, and that is the process of renewal. The second task we were given, the key priority, was to fix load shedding and resolve the electricity crisis, which is undermining social and economic progress made since the dawn of democracy. We have, comrades, been dealing with the question of load shedding, and we know that our people are upset, they are angry, and they have become disillusioned because of the load shedding that has been happening. Now, when I appointed Comrade Sputler to be the Minister of Electricity, people kept saying, you didn't consult us. How? Kanti. Agerele president had decisive. How about decisive? La Musa had. Karekelebo Galebon Savano. Kemo appointed and Bakolosa. But I have appointed him. And he is going to do the work that he is doing now. And since we appointed a Minister of Electricity, the focus on electricity and the communication from electricity on the issue of load shedding has actually given our people a better understanding of this problem and what we are doing to address it. And he has gone to every power station in the country. He knows every power station like the back and the front of his hand. He has gone to every unit. Every power station has a number of units. He will tell you how Kamotsosa got 3. Got 3 yako saying Motsaka unity yako Matimba, Kapoka unity yako Kusile. He will be able to tell you how that unit is performing. That was the main reason why I appointed him. And appointed him Karnoki engineer. Yanongwe naka speech sa pele. Arina aki electrical engineer. Kara mar sputa wanta yano. Kara wanta yano. Nako appointa or engineer. Wena mutaba to rawi electrical engineer. Kara suka sellam pele dimselis waha. So he's going ahead, and he has infused confidence. The confidence is there amongst our people. Our people can now see line of sight, because our people wanted honesty. All they wanted is transparency and honesty, and that we should not make wild promises, and be able to tell them, yes, the load shedding challenge is going to be with us for a while, but we are going to address it. And we are going to be seeking new sources of energy. Now we are also dealing with the issue of transmission. Transmission, Yaruna, has become more limited and challenged. And now we are going to be looking at how we expand transmission. Now let me explain the processes that we are going through here. Comrade Pravin Gordon is in charge of the governance issues. Comrade Mantashe is in charge of the regulatory issues that have to do with electricity. Comrade Sputler is in charge of making sure that we get rid of load shedding, and also will be looking at the generation process. Now, for quite a while we've been saying, this entity of ours, Eskom, has to be restructured. Now, a number of people misunderstand what we are seeking to do. They think that we are privatizing Eskom. We are not privatizing Eskom. We are restructuring it so that it is best able to perform the mandate that it has. Eskom is a state-owned enterprise. And what we are seeking to do is to say there must be transmission. There must be a section of Eskom and a company that deals with transmission only. Through that, we will be able to attract investments for transmission purposes. It's 100% owned by the government. And those who will be able to put in money are not going to be buying that Eskom. It's just to make sure that we have money. As it is now, Eskom owes 480 billion rand. And it is money that was spent building up a number of our power stations and with cost overruns. Whereas one power station should have cost us 50 billion, it ended up costing us 100 to 180 billion. Now, that money was done in generation. And at the same time, transmission needs 150 billion itself. Now we're going to create instruments that are going to enable us to raise money, to be able to have money to ensure that we build transmission lines, we revamp those transmission lines. On generation, Eskom itself will continue being an electricity generating company. What we have now done is to allow others to come and generate as well, because the money that would have been required to add more megawatts would have been so big with the debt that we have. Now it was best to say, let us have independent generators who will come with renewable energy using the sun, the wind, and many others. And Eskom itself will continue the generator, and Eskom is now also moving into renewables. Still keeping, comrades, the coal-fired power stations that we have. Coal-fired power stations are like your car. Your car operates well right at the beginning. If you maintain it well, it will serve you for many years. For quite a long time, we did not service and maintain our power stations as we should have. A number of them have kept breaking down. A number of them are old, and they therefore, like any car, does get retired. If you go back home and you check the cars that either your parents, your grandparents have, they've all been retired. We now have new cars. And the same thing happens with our coal-fired power stations. Kusile and the others, Medupi, are still new. They will continue operating for a good 25 or 30 years to come. Some of our power stations have gone up to 50 years. So they are tired. They cost us more money. And so therefore they will be retired as new generation comes in, and that generation will also come in from independent power producers. So Eskom on its own will continue to generate power, and we own 100% of that. We come to distribution. Distribution will also be separate because, as it is now, our cities, City Power is a distribution arm of Johannesburg. And a number of our cities also have their own distribution capability. So Eskom plays a role in distribution alongside the number of other distributors we have around the country. So all in all, we are restructuring the architecture of our electricity. Who else has done this? Now, I often say when we do things, we must compare ourselves with what others are doing around the world. A number of other countries are doing exactly the same thing. Even your most communist countries like the People's Republic of China, they have restructured their electricity architecture and it's functioning extremely well. I'm saying this because there's a misunderstanding amongst us that we are privatizing. We are not privatizing. If anything, we are going to be introducing systems that are going to make our state-owned enterprise to work more efficiently, more in line with what happens in the marketplace. One of the things that has been holding Eskom back, so you know, has been because it's a state-owned enterprise, it has had to follow the same rules like our departments in government, where when they procure something, they have to get through a long tender process, get Treasury's approval. Now, Eskom, when they want to buy a boiler, when we say go through that long process and go and get approval in Treasury, it's a delay of almost 18 months. And they've been saying, Kuma President, we cannot work like that. We need to work like a corporation. And we are now going to allow Eskom to work like that. It does not mean we are privatizing them. Because we want Eskom to be efficient, we want Eskom to work well. And let me extend a little bit and go also to another area where there is a misconception as well. That, for instance, to our rail network and our logistics network. Now, our rail and logistics network used to be amongst the best in the world. Through state capture and corruption, it has really declined. Our trains are no longer moving, as you well know, because there was state capture along the way that brought a halt to our trains. The logistics, just being able to have the freight that is needed. Our ports used to be some of the best in the world. They have declined. Now, they now need a lot of money. They need an enormous amount of money. The type of money that would come from the fiscus. Now, the fiscus has to take care of things like education, health, and investment so that we can boost our medium enterprises and all that, and pay the police, the army, and all that. Now, our state-owned enterprises have been requiring money from the fiscus on an ongoing basis. And we say we need to be clever, because now it's either we leave things as they are and say we wait until we have money, and our logistics system, our ports don't function well, or we say we will allow those who have money the opportunity to come and invest so that our ports work well. The ports will always be owned by government, and we are only going to say, yes, come and run this port, and we've been discussing this with our unions as well, to say, yes, we will allow you to come and invest, you build, you operate, and thereafter, in some circumstances, you transfer back. Now, that's where we use other people's money to make sure that we boost the wheels of our economy and they work well. Because otherwise, we wait for years and years, and we then get our state-owned enterprises to compete with building hospitals, with building schools, and yet we can use various other means and instruments to ensure that in the end we do achieve the objectives we want. So let me be clear. When we drafted the Ready to Govern document ahead of the 1994 elections, we envisaged that we would have a mixed economy type of architecture, where enterprises will be owned by the private sector and the public sector. We also anticipated that there are those where we will invite the private sector to participate, so long as we are not going to face a situation where prices are going to escalate to the detriment of our people. So the clear message from government, from the African National Congress, is that we are not on a sort of program of privatization. We are on a program of strengthening the economy of our country and making sure that we reposition our economy and make the various nodes of our economy to function well. We want efficient ports, we want efficient railways, logistics, and we want an efficient electricity system, which is precisely what we are focusing on. And the third objective was that we must focus on improving the delivery of basic services and fixing infrastructure. Now, service delivery has become one of the biggest challenges that we face. In 2021, our share of the vote declined because our people said there's no meaningful service delivery. And we ourselves also admitted, or when it comes to service delivery, we have not been serving our people well. And one of the things that we noticed as well, and Comrade Dada also spoke about it in a very positive way, one of the things we found, yes, there was rife corruption in many of our governance entities at local level and so forth, and we were also not spending money. Some of the money that had been given on a grant basis to our local government, we were not spending it, and it was returning back to national government. And one of the reasons was there was lack of capacity. No capacity at all to make sure that we look after our waterworks, our roads, and other service delivery processes. I went to Renewal the other day in Tshwane, and then I got the full story. That waterworks, the National Department of Water had said to the Tshwane Metro that attend to Renewal. We have identified a number of things that you have to do. That is your scope of competence as a local government. Over a period of 13 years, it was not done. Largely because they didn't have capacity. And that is one of the reasons that we have found for many of our local government entities do not have the capacity. And because they don't have the capacity, service delivery then declines. Now, we have now decided where Masipala is not able to do the work, National will now take over and run that. That is what we have now decided. We will now come and run. Now, the pleasing story about Johannesburg, which I heard very carefully from Comrade Dada, and I have told him, or he should be mayor of Johannesburg. Okay. Before I'm accused for it, I'm a campaigner. Now, the reason I say so, we are locked into coalition politics. We'll talk about that in a while. The reason I say so is that Comrade Dada has a really good grasp of what Johannesburg needs. He has a good grasp what Halokanya. And le yena na bua ka bokhutswane ba hae la le mokhutswane wa tlhaloganya. And each time I speak to him, I just get a sense of somebody who understands the budget. He understands how the budget works, and he understands what we need to do on service delivery. And he now says that 14,000 people or so have now been added, 40,000 to the indigent register. Because that money is there. The money is there from Treasury. Quite often, our local government entities do not spend the money. And if they spend it on other things, and our people suffer. Now, he has a very good understanding for yes, once you have a budget for indigent people, we must spend that money for the services that they can't pay for. And he also understands the governance. And from what he was saying, we now have improved to 68%. In terms of performance, we're now going to go to 74. And we will soon be going to 100. And I think when he's mayor, we will hit 100. So, comrades, you have raised a number of issues on service delivery. I'm not going to go through each one of them. Water is a key one, is a serious one, and I heard a very good suggestion from one of the comrades who spoke from one of the zones, and he said, Johannesburg has a lot of underground water. We must talk to our scientists for how can we utilize that water. And we can no longer have a situation where our people continue to complain about not having water. Comrade Senzo Mkhunu, as the Minister of Water and Sanitation, has now mapped out exactly what the water architecture of our country looks like. And he is busy working on all that. And he takes me all over the country to go and see how we are improving the waterworks, and including Renewal, where we are now going to start and have started work right there. The issue of electricity, just access to electricity, Comrade Panyaza, you heard him very well. And Comrade Panyaza, the pleasing thing is that he does not just lament. He takes action. He takes action. I thank him for that. Now, there are those who always lament, who always raise challenges and problems and so forth. As he has seen the problems and the challenges, he's come up with solutions. And in Johannesburg, and I guess maybe in Gauteng, electricity is not, challenges are not only as a result of load shedding. They are also the result of transformers breaking down. They are also as a result of illegal connections, and that is what gets our transformers to blow up. But I'm glad that there is a program to retool our electricity architecture through transformers. But that is where it's going to be important for us as the African National Congress, and I'll talk about that in a little while, to be so much on the ground as to be able to ensure that once transformers are put in, they are not broken down again. I once went to Chiawelo, where I grew up, and the community was angry. They were angry and performing. And then, as I listened to their story, I found for it, they were not being so upfront with why there was electricity breakage. Because Eskom, a transformer would blow up. Eskom would come and install the transformer. In no time, because of the illegal connections, that transformer would be overloaded and it would break down again. And they once told me, you know, the factory that manufactures transformers keeps manufacturing, and they are not always on the shelf. And as the transformers blow up, because the transformer is quite expensive, about 2 or 3 million rand, and we have to keep on having them manufactured. And they are blowing up not because of just doing the work of distributing electricity normally. They are overloaded. And we now need, as a community, as a society, we need to come to grips with that and ask ourselves, how are we going to solve this problem? And the solutions, comrades, can only come from the African National Congress. We are the ones who must come up with those solutions. We cannot sit back and be moaning and be lamenting all the time. Once we have realized there is this problem, we must ask ourselves, how do we solve the problem? How do we solve the problem of izinyoka being connected all over? Are we able to find solutions to redirect these things? Yes, some people, of course, they want the illegal connections because they don't want to pay. And that, I asked our people in Chiawelo, and I said, some of you, maybe you don't want to pay, that's why you go illegal. They said, yes, it is expensive. I said, but are you on the indigent register? I found that they were not. So the ANC must come up with solutions, how we address that problem. Because Comrade Panyaza will want to supply the transformers. And as long as illegal connections go on, we are going to continue having exactly the same problem. So the ANC, you, as the leaders of the ANC, must then come up with the solutions. So that then will, to a large extent, address the issue of electricity. But you are correct in saying, unless we address it, our people are not going to be happy with us. So therefore, Comrade Panyaza, I want to encourage you, or we must move with speed. Way before the end of the year, we must make sure we get those transformers. The people who don't have access to electricity must have access to electricity. Because, comrades, it can't be pleasing for a countrywide. ESCOM has been able to make 93% of our people have electricity. And yet in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, you hear of people who have not had electricity for 3 years. It's not correct. We can't have that. We must go to the root of the problem, address it, and mobilize the whole of society so that we address this, because otherwise it's going to be a recurring problem. So that applies to electricity, that applies to water, and the other one that we must also attend to is the one of housing. Yes, housing. Housing is another big challenge that we must address. And fortunately, Comrade Kensani Kubai is now working through ensuring that housing is delivered in a variety of ways. Yes, I went to Diepsloot. Comrade from Diepsloot says, I promise university, at the Kupolika University. It's about the land. The comrades, and it was a rally which was attended by thousands of people at 8 o'clock at night, and one of them stood up and said, Comrade President, there's a piece of land over there. Can you make sure that we have access to that piece of land? We have service sites, because we can build houses for ourselves. And I said, that is a really good solution. I don't see why it cannot be done. That matter is now being processed is actively being processed by the province and the metro. The other one that you complained about is the smart city. You need to sit down with Comrade Panyaza, because having said that we should have a smart city in one of the saunas, and people said, oh, he's a dreamer and a dreamer. Smart cities are rising. In Gauteng, we are going to be having a smart city in a few years. It's already planned. It's already going to rise. We are going to have smart cities in KZN and in the Eastern Cape. The notion and the idea of smart cities is spreading throughout the country out of the concept that I flighted. So yes, we are going to have smart cities, and we are going to also have the issue of housing being delivered in a much better way than we have. We also said that we need to ignite economic growth and job creation through catalytic investment, and we must make sure unapologetically we support black business, SMMEs, cooperatives, as well as the township and village enterprises. Now here in Gauteng and in Johannesburg especially, the focus on creating jobs is quite getting advanced. In Gauteng, Comrade Panyaza has come up with Nasi Span, and that is a fantastic program which is going to be employing 6,000 people all the time. Now, it also shows the level of unemployment in our economy, because as we advertise 6,000 jobs, we find that 75,000 people apply. And of course, this is a problem and a challenge that we've got to address. What we are seeking to do is to make our economy an economy that is conducive for investments, and with that, we've been attracting a lot of investments. Comrades are saying there are quite a number of factories and buildings that are derelict, and those too need to be mobilized, need to be revamped, so that the decay that you see all over should come to an end. Johannesburg is facing a major challenge because a number of businesses are leaving, and as they leave a vacuum and is then occupied by illegal business people, it's occupied by those who don't even want to pay tax and so forth. We need to bring that to an end. So job creation through catalytic investment is one of the key areas. And that is why we are also focusing on infrastructure. The infrastructure process in our country had slowed down quite considerably. It had slowed down, and when we looked at it, we found that in many parts, at local level, provincial level, there was a lack of capacity to look at big-ticket projects and make them bankable and have the technical skills, the financial skills to close those projects and to get them to start being constructed. The money is not a problem. The problem is just the preparation, project preparation, and that is what we are also focusing on and making sure that, yes, for economic growth, infrastructure, as I've often said, is the flywheel that is going to make our economy function well. Our support to small, medium enterprises is also an important aspect. And we are focusing on supporting small, medium enterprises, but we are also saying we want to be biased towards supporting women-owned and women-led businesses. And that is why I said that 40% of public procurement must go to women-led and owned businesses. We are going to make sure that it happens. And the reason for that is that we have found that women of our country need a great deal of empowerment, They have been excluded from playing a key role in the economy of our country, so therefore we want this to happen. We also said as a priority, we must deal decisively and fearlessly and frontally with rampant crime and lawlessness, as well as corruption. Now, comrades, crime is a major problem throughout the country. I met with the security chiefs of our country, I met with the cluster, and I said, I want a clear plan. Comrade Tladi, who spoke here, said, we need to look at the criminal strategy that we have. And Comrade Tladi, that is what is happening right now. And I've said I want a clear plan. We must come up with a clear plan on how we tackle criminality, but also how we tackle the zamazamas, to make sure that the zamazamas who are terrorizing our people are not given any further room to maneuver, and we will bring zamazamas to an end, because that in itself is terrible. Now, when we deal with zamazamas, there are a number of levels. There are the operators at the bottom who go and dig rock and dust and soil and then deliver it to the second level. The second level are those who are then, are the money exchangers. And the third level are those who are either sitting in Sandton or sitting overseas in other countries, who are the real controllers. And now we are after them. We are after them all because the scourge of zamazamas is a terrible one. In the Free State, we had 31 people dying underground. Here in Ekurhuleni, we had an explosion that was caused, or the poisonous gas that was caused, and in Kagiso, and here in Westbury as well, and also in a number of places on the East Rand. So we're going to be dealing with that a lot more effectively, as we are going to deal with corruption, to make sure that we rid our country of corruption as well. And of course, we must also focus on our commitment and efforts to build a better Africa and a better world. Now, I will be saying quite a lot about this tomorrow night when we address the issue of BRICS and the role that BRICS is going to play or is playing in our economy, the role we want BRICS to play in the economy of our continent, and the role we want BRICS to play globally. BRICS has become a real center or a fulcrum of attraction as a global forum. Many countries want to join BRICS. They have seen BRICS as being a very progressive formation in the world that deals with issues in a progressive way, in an equitable way, and they want to be part of it. So more than 20 countries have applied to join BRICS, which basically means that as a country we are well positioned, small as we are. We are a small economy, we are a small population, 60 or so million, and we are amongst giants, China and India, and we play a key role amongst all of them. So we will be talking about BRICS tomorrow and a few other things that have an impact on our foreign policy. The comrade who spoke here wanted to know, why is Putin not coming? President Putin, I've had lots of discussions with him, as I have had with President Zelensky, by the way, where we have outlined the role that we play. And we will be also addressing that tomorrow, where many in the world are trying to box us into a corner where we are aligned to them. And we have chosen a path of non-alignment. We are non-aligned, but But at the same time, we are not neutral. We are on the side of peace. We are peace promoters in the world, and we will also talk about that tomorrow. Now, President Putin is not coming. He's going to be participating on the virtual platform. So he is going to be here in spirit and also on the screen as well. Now, of course, he is very busy. He is very busy. We have invited a number of other presidents to come, and some of them are busy either with elections, are busy with whatever, and he is very busy as well, as you know. So we will talk about that as well. So on the foreign policy issues, comrades, and I'm glad, Comrade Dada, that you are going to have this forum moment to discuss BRICS. You know, this is the one time where BRICS has become such a topical issue throughout our country. I'm glad that the governing party, your ANC, has been holding a lot of discussions, seminars, as well as other various conferences on BRICS, inviting many other countries who want to be friends of BRICS or be part of it to come to our country. That has been fantastic. So BRICS has become a very, very topical issue, and then I think we are going to have a fantastic BRICS summit. We're going to have almost 50 heads of states coming to South Africa to attend this BRICS summit. So that in itself is fantastic. That goes to show the influence and the impact that South Africa has in the world. And the seventh priority, comrades, is about winning a decisive and outright victory for the ANC in 2024 in order to defend and guarantee the continuity of our national democratic revolution. That is what is the important part. So, comrades, we are not going into this election with the notion that we are going to be in coalition. We are not going into this election thinking that we are not going to perform well. We are going to perform well, and we are not going to think that we are in coalition. We are going to have an outright majority, and that is what is going to happen. So, comrades, in order to do that, we then ourselves, as I conclude, you yourselves now need to be infused with a particular approach. An approach that says, and Comrade Tladi captured it very well. Comrade Sbogiles also captured it very well about the African National Congress being a well-oiled machine. But Comrade Tladi then said, comrades, we must not be lamenting. We are the leaders of our people here in Johannesburg. You are the ones who must come up with the solutions. You have raised a number of issues, but I want to stretch your thinking a little bit more. And I want you to ask yourselves, yes, we have a problem of crime. And sometimes we have this approach that the police must solve it. The police must solve this and that. And yet we need to ask ourselves, what is it that we as the African National Congress ought to be doing to make sure that we do work with the security agencies of our country to make sure that we bring the levels of crime down. Now, the ANC has been really forthright in all this, because it was the ANC and before that, it was the organizations of our people During the struggle, we established street committees. Tomorrow, the UDF, there's going to be a celebration, not the UDF, there's going to be a celebration of the 40th anniversary of the UDF. The UDF brought more than 500 organizations together, and we popularized the idea of people's power. We popularized the concept of citizen activism. We popularized the idea of street committees. During that period, our street committees were so active, and they were able to take the apartheid police toe to toe and engaged with them and defended our people. The street committees were so effective, but what that meant is that we were able to take decisive steps to engage our people. What we need to do is to ensure that, yes, the challenges that we have amongst our people will be resolved when there is cooperation between the state sector as well as our people. And the African National Congress is the leader of society. And as the leader of society, we are the ones who must come up with the solutions. And a simple question I would ask is, how many of us, how many of our branches have community policing forums? And how many of us are in the police station charge office from time to time, working with our police officers? How many of our organizations are doing that? Now, I am saying what we can do as a people, we should not just rely on outsourcing and saying, yes, the police must do that. Sometimes we complain that the police themselves are corrupt. Some of the police officers are corrupt. Some of them are transporting drugs and so forth. And we expect Bheki Cele to be the one who will come and stop that. And yet, when we have citizen activism, we are the ones who will be able to stop those police in their tracks. When there is no police van, for instance, you say that there are areas that do not have police stations. Rather than lament about that, we need to say, this is the proposal we have, and this is the population that it will cover. We want the support, and this is now an ANC active branch coming up with the initiative. We want, for instance, we want the city, we want the province to be able to come up with ideas on how we should be able to get the police station we want, the clinic that we want. So the ANC, comrades, must perfect the issue of community engagement. If you want the problems in our society to be solved, we need to get our people involved, engaged in decision-making. We need, yes, to be listening to the needs of our people, but we need to be active ourselves as the African National Congress. And I would ask another question. How many of us, as branches, have committees that deal with, or subcommittees that deal with the health, that deal with HIV? How many of our branches are already looking at the issue of the NHI, or how the NHI is going to be implemented? How many of our branches are actively involved, discussing those issues, engaging society, and getting our people to understand? You know, comrades, each time there are protests, when our people protest, I often ask myself, where is the ANC branch when this is happening? Because those are questions we must ask ourselves. When people complain about water, about electricity, about the transformer that's not working, it is the ANC branch that must be in the forefront. And the role of that ANC branch must not be to go and protest. The role of that ANC branch must be to go and sleep outside the door of the mayor, of the premier, and say, "Aritsamai until ilukiswa tabai." That is the role of the ANC branch. But comrades, this is exactly how we develop communities. Communities will never develop on their own. They will only develop when there's leadership. And we have proven for the ANC is the only one that can lead our people. And we therefore need to ask ourselves, do we have all these processes that can lead to development? Now, Comrade Besani here, as he was outlining, and he says, I can boast a bit. And I want him to boast. Because Comrade Besani, by outlining, and it's not the first time I hear this, he has displayed a very deep knowledge as a leader. As a leader at national level, but also being able to act at the local level, at his branch level. He knows what is happening in his branch in detail. And if I were to ask him, he would also tell me, or because of the work that I do at that branch level, I also know how many people are going to vote for the ANC. He does his own door-to-door work. He already knows. Now, the question I would ask, this is a question I would ask you, as branch leaders. Do you already know, at the branch level, how the people of your branch are going to vote? Are you doing the work that is going to enable the ANC to win? Those are questions we must ask ourselves, because that work we do through community engagement, through the branch, you see, you already have a template. The template that you have is the ANC. And you, below that, you can go and get involved in community policing forums to make sure that we work alongside the police to get rid of the criminals. Gender-based violence was mentioned. Gender-based violence often takes place by men who are known in the community. They are known. And now the question is, are we as the African National Congress deeply involved in that type of work? Are we involved with our schools? Are we involved with the health of our people in the community? So, comrades, those things can only happen if an ANC branch is deeply involved and invested in the lives of our people. Community policing is one of those levers we can use, added to effective policing, added to by having those vehicles. Community, our people in Diepsloot, they are crying out, they say, we don't have enough policing, we don't have enough vehicles and so forth. For instance, go Diepsloot. One of the issues our people complained about was that there was only one police vehicle that was supposed to oversee that whole area. And when they raised the issue, immediately up to 10, 15 vehicles were released to go and work there. But it could only be done through the activism of our branches. And the same thing happens when it comes to economic development. Now we have another added problem. And you as leaders, comrades, also need to come up with solutions. We have spaza shops. As we grew up, The corner shop in the township was owned by our parents and all that. Ratsiba. Ke shop ya ko Gauteng, ke ya ntate mang mang and so forth. We knew that. Now with time, those people there are a number of people who then started their own spaza shops. Nothing wrong with that, because that shows economic activity amongst our people. In no time, they started hiring out their own houses to people from outside, because they were now getting rental money. And it was started, yes, by us, and those people from outside who are illegal saw the gap, and then they started spreading. Then they started taking over the spaza shops. Now here's the problem. We enabled them to come in. Of course, you could say our borders are not well guarded, so therefore they came in their large numbers. But if we are organized, we've got all our committees, we would be able to see exactly what is happening, and we would organize ourselves. Now, I'll give you a good example. The same thing happened in a small town in the Free State. Same thing happened. In no time, people from outside of South Africa started coming into that small town, and they took over the spaza shops. They even took over some of the shops in the town. And what they did, they organized themselves. And I must say, what the ANC played a key role. It started organizing the business people in the town. And having organized them, they said, do you really realize what is happening? It is people from outside of our country who are now owning the shops. They earn money from us, and the money then leaves the country. And they then club together and say, we are now going to set up a shopping center, and we will build a consortium. They formed a consortium amongst all of them who were owning these old spaza shops. Formed a consortium, had a shopping center, not like Sentin or whatever, but a shopping center, and it attracted the people of the town. The spaza shops closed, and the foreign people left the town. Now this happens out of organization, because now I'm putting this to you, and I'm saying we as leaders at that local level, we need to think, how do we tackle this problem? Because now the narrative is government must act. Government must act. How do we act? Do we close the spaza shops? And some of our people fight us. They say, no, but bana ba grand, bar tusa, bar rexeta broto, and all that. And so we need to discuss this matter and come up with solutions ourselves. So what I'm trying to say, comrades, we need to build strong ANC branches that are not only focused on elections to our own committees, but strong ANC branches, yes, that will win us the next election, but strong ANC branches that address the problems of society. They address the water problem. They address the housing problem. And we become creative. Now, what I had wanted to hear, and a few of you who came up here, you came up with a number of ideas. But I want for the next time, I must hear more ideas. A few of you said, do this, do that. Comrade Tladi stands here and says, Comrade President, the message that you write to the nation every week, we would like that message to be translated into other languages, and also to be audio in other languages. Now, Arti Gelebe here from my office immediately brightened up. Yes, that's exactly what we should do. That's a very positive proposal. I want to hear more. I want to hear more, comrades, when I come to these forums. I must hear what the problems are and what the solutions are. I say this because we are leaders. Comrade Panyaza, Comrade Dada Morero, they are coming up with solutions. And I want all of us, we are all leaders here, but when there are issues, societal problems, we must not only lament or moan. We must say, this is a problem and this is a possible solution. So bring me solutions. Now, this is how I also deal with ministers. I say to my ministers, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. Hard to the problem, go and think of a solution and bring it back. Because that is our task as leaders. Leadership means that we analyze the situation that our people find themselves in, and having analyzed that, we then think of a number of solutions. Some of them can be options, some of them can be effective solutions, and some of them may not work. But the issue is that we must come up with solutions. The comrade, I didn't catch his name, who came up with the NHI issue. He also stands up here, apart from saying Comrade Dada must be the mayor, he also comes up with a solution, the last one who spoke. And he says on NHI, he says, NHI, we give, many people are on medical aid and they get a tax rebate. And he says, that is the tax rebate that can be used to fund NHI. Now, that is the solution. That is the solution, and I want to hear more and more solutions when I interact with you on all issues that affect our people. But other than that, comrades, I must say that, as I said to Comrade Dada, I've really, really thoroughly enjoyed being here amongst you. And I just wish one got the opportunity all the time to listen to branches, to listen to all of you, because you are talking about the lives of our people in reality. And having listened to you and having listened to the issues you have raised, these are issues that obviously we are going to address. And Comrade Dada and Comrade Premier was also taking copious notes. The matters must be resolved and they must be addressed. And some of them are so urgent because they affect the lives of our people right now. Another issue that was raised, which I'll end up on, another issue that was raised was the issue of two issues. Let me start with the issue of non-racialism. A comrade stood up here and he said, people from minority groups. Now, Comrade Jessie Duarte, may her soul rest in peace, hated the notion of minorities, and she kept saying, I am not a minority. I am part of the majority in South Africa. So, but Comrade raised the issue, and it specifically addresses the national question, that the adherence to the national question has waned in the ANC, and that we must admit. More and more we're finding that there are less and less white people in the ANC, colored people in the ANC, and Indian people in the ANC. We need, as an organization that has been leading with regard to the non-racialism project, to ask ourselves, why are we becoming less attractive to all these other national groups, when inherently the ANC is about non-racialism? What can we do should be the question. What can we do to attract more and more white people within our ranks? What can we do to attract more and more colored people in our ranks and Indian people in our ranks? The PA is just amassing its numbers, largely riding on a very, very narrow ethnic mobilization ticket. And we are the ones who have always had a message and policies that appeal to the majority of South Africans. We now need to ask ourselves, what do we need to do to bring the people who are coloureds, Indians and whites within the ranks of the ANC, and make sure that the ANC becomes a true representative of the diversity of the people of South Africa. So we have a task. It's a task that we cannot, comrades, be derelict on. It's a task that we must take on. The other important issue was raised about volunteers. Volunteers do a very important job, particularly as we go to elections. And I have always raised the issue, how do we ensure that we incentivize our volunteers to be fully committed to the campaign that we are going to run? And I'm not even suggesting that we should pay our volunteers, but I'm saying we must find a way of incentivizing them and making sure that they remain committed. And now you've come up with a good idea. One of you said we need to have at least 25 volunteers per branch who are going to be committed from now right through to the elections, and others will be added on. And we need to look at that. And I've raised it. I've raised it at various levels, also at the NEC level. And I'm glad that it has been raised here. Comrade Panyaza, this is a matter that we need to address. If we want an outright victory for the ANC, every one of us must have a responsibility to be looking after a whole street or a number of houses and be able to account. You know, in 1994, we came up with this approach that we visit every house 3 times, and there is a street sheet. And that is what enabled us on a continuous basis to have a great victory. And we have stopped doing that. When there's a door-to-door, when the president goes for a door-to-door, everybody, the whole gimmick goes around the president. And we don't do door-to-door in other houses, and yet we will choose for there will be 3 houses that the president goes to, and yet each one of us must have a clear responsibility. Now, your BETs, I hope you are able to do that, and your RET, you are able to do that, and your PETs as well, Comrade Panyaza. We need to drill down right to the bottom and get to know how every household is going to vote, starting off with the registration, because the registration is soon going to open, and we must have wetted the ground and made sure our people are ready for registration, and in fact, some of them should be registering now online. So those are some of the practical things that we can do as we continue the renewal of the ANC. I see victory written all over your faces. I hear it in your voices. As I've been shaking hands with a number of you, I can feel victory in your hands. So let's go ahead and go and win a decisive victory for the African National Congress. Thank you, comrades.
Hello? Yes, but... He's got his phone on his hand. He has answered it. Sorry. Ciao. Yes, I can hear you. Sure. Sorry?